What if you could test drive a house before you buy it the same way you test drive a car? Imagine spending the night in the home before you buy it, checking out the neighborhood noise, the morning light, even how comfortable the place feels when you wake up. Well, believe it or not, that's not just a fantasy. Some home buyers are actually trying to do this and getting to do this right here in our country today. Hi, I'm Chris Charles, a certified real estate specialist here at Provident. And today I'm breaking down a fascinating story that's been making the rounds in the news. Home buyers asking for sleepovers before committing to a purchase. I'll walk you through what this trend looks like, whether it's really practical, and most importantly, what you should know legally if you're thinking about trying it, either on the buyer side or the seller side. And before we dive in, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel and send me any thoughts in the comments. So here's what's happening. It was recently reported that a couple in California rented a massive estate for 2 months before deciding whether to buy it. We're not talking about a small Airbnb weekend getaway. This was a $60 million mansion, and they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars just to test it out. A sleepover lets you see how the place feels in the morning, how noisy the neighborhood is, what the neighbors are like. But here's where fact and fiction need to be separated. Yes, these sleepovers are happening, especially in the luxury home market, but it's not as widespread or simple as it might sound. For one thing, many of these arrangements don't lead to the buyer purchasing the exact property they stayed in. In the California case I mentioned, the couple ended up buying another home nearby instead. And for sellers, this situation comes with material risk. Imagine inviting strangers into the beautiful home to stay overnight and something gets damaged, or if somebody gets injured on the property. Or the biggest risk that I'm concerned with as a real estate attorney is they refuse to leave. A recent story was reported where one of these sleepover before they buy opportunities happened and the fire alarm went off in the middle of the night. Thankfully, I don't think there was a fire, but this just kind of underscores the type of issues and risks that could pop up. As I mentioned, the primary risk for the sellers is if the buyer refuses to vacate the property when they're supposed to, especially if they don't decide to buy the property. Under Arizona law, if the buyer and seller enter into a purchase agreement, and if the seller allows the buyer to take occupancy before closing, in other words, they try to do the sleepover during the inspection period, for example, which is not common, but it's not that uncommon either, then the Arizona Residential Landlord-Tenant Act does not apply. There's a specific carve-out, an exception to the Landlord-Tenant Act concerning occupancy under a purchase agreement. I've personally had clients make that unfortunate mistake and then deal with the consequences where the buyer didn't close and refuses to move out. Let's just say it's an expensive and technical and very frustrating process because the efficient eviction rules that we have here in Arizona will not apply. So the seller is going to have to file an actual lawsuit for breach of contract, maybe even for forfeiture, and it's not going to be as quick as the seller would like to get the buyer kicked out of their home. As a cautious lawyer, counselor, I can tell you this. While creative, these type of sleep before you buy arrangements absolutely need legal advice and proper legal guardrails. If a seller agrees to let the buyer stay overnight, there absolutely should be a written detailed agreement. Definitely meet with legal counsel before entering into any such agreement or giving the buyer occupancy. One option is maybe entering into a short-term rental agreement before actually entering into the purchase and sale agreement. One thing I love about the real estate industry is that there's all kinds of creative opportunities and solutions out there for brokers and investors and sellers, depending on the market. So are sleepovers before you buy possible? Yeah, it's possible. But of course, they do come with significant risk. Right now, it's mostly happening in the luxury real estate market, and only when lawyers and brokers carefully structure the deal properly. But for most buyers and sellers, it's not going to be a realistic step. So if you or someone you know is considering purchasing or selling a property, especially if it's a luxury property, my advice is simple. Don't do it alone. Get the proper legal advice before you agree to any one of these interesting scenarios. That's where a real estate lawyer like myself can really come in handy. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, please subscribe to the channel so that you can get future updates on Arizona real estate law, and share it with anybody else you know who might find this information helpful.